All right, so this is part of day 2 actually. So it says write a quadratic equation that represents the area of each square, then find the length of its side using the equation formulated. All right, so like I showed you before, you see if you have S and S, so to find the area of a square, see, it's really just like this, S and S. So it's just one square here, so S times S is S squared. Therefore, your S squared is equal to 169 because your area is 169. So in this case, your equation is S squared is equal to 169, and then you take the square root. Now, like I said before, the square root is always a positive and negative root. However, when it comes to an area of a square, you cannot have a negative area. So you can say, for example, hey, how big is your land? You cannot say, oh, it's negative 100 square meter. It's always positive. So then we choose only the positive root. So that means each side is 13. All right? So now let's take a look at the second one. So the second one here, okay, let's form the square here. So there are two terms making up your side. So the first side is actually S plus 5. And then the other side is S. Oh, they're both S plus 5. So what you're going to do is you are going to do the strategy that I just showed earlier. S times S is S squared. S times 5 is 5S. Then S times 5 is 5S. And then 5 times 5 is 25. So then you combine like terms. So you end up with S squared. Then put this together. 5S and 5S is 10S. And then, that's S. And then plus 25. All right? Now, we have to solve this using what we've learned earlier. So now, we have to determine the side. Well, I will get back to this because I haven't even taught you yet on how to determine how to do this using the next strategy, the next method. We'll get back to this later, okay? Then we will determine how much is S. Let me show you first, because this one is not already just extracting the square root. We've got to use a different method for this one. All right, so now let's go to your day 3 module. All right, so now here, we are going to do the zero product property of real numbers. All right, so let's see what this is. So transform the quadratic equation into standard form, then factor the quadratic expression. Okay, so this is actually an intro to your module number 3. We will get back to the solution to this problem after I taught you how to do this. All right, so let's solve your... Okay, you do have to check your work. In here, I wasn't really just checking your work. Okay, so let's look at this equation right here. Okay, so the first one is x squared plus 10x plus 9. All right, so what you do here, you cannot do your extracting the square root method anymore because there is a middle term. The extracting of the square root method only works, Keith, if you have equations like this, you know, when you don't have middle term, when b is equal to 0. So we cannot use that strategy anymore, so now we're going to use a different method. So what we're going to do is you only look at your last term. So what are the factors of 9? So the factors of 9 would be 1 and 9, or a 3 and 3. Now you're going to look at which of these factors would give me 10 by adding them or subtracting them. So here, I cannot do 3 plus 3, won't make 10. However, my 1 plus 9 will make 10. You see? So now I can use this. And what happens there is, okay, I'm going to follow the strategy of your teacher. Then it says, apply the zero product. Okay, hold on. I'm just reading on the strategy because I want to be consistent with your teacher's way of doing things. Oh, the teacher just showed kind of like the shortcut here. All right, so we'll do it this way. So now you see that positive 1 and the 9 will make 10. That is your middle term. So what we're going to do is simply just x plus 1 from here times x plus 9. And then everything has to be equated to 0. All right, so now let's check this one. Let's check using our square or FOIL if you want. I don't know which one are you comfortable with, or if you're not even familiar with FOIL. So this one is x and x squared. 1 and x is 1x. 1 x times 9 is 9x. 1 times 9 is 9. So now it's x squared plus 10x plus 9. So it brings us back to the original equation. So then that means our factors are correct. Now this is not the answer yet, because your answer, your solutions are always in the form of x equals something. So that's why we also call them the x value. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna equate each factor into 0. So x plus 1 is equal to 0 minus 1. Then solve the equation. So x is negative 1. That's one solution. Then the other one is x plus 9 equals 0. So x is equal to negative 9. So if your teacher says, what are the solutions to this quadratic equation? These are your solutions. But in your exercise, oh, yep, that's what it says. So now, you just have to, here's my work. You can copy that. You can pause the video. So I'm just going to write down here that this is the factors first. I'm going to write the factors. The factors are x plus 1 and x plus 9, which gives you x equals negative 1 and x equals negative 9. So those are your solutions. So what that means really, Keith, is we say, okay, x is equal to negative 1 is a solution. What that means is if you substitute x by negative 1, that means it will make this equation true. If you also substitute x by negative 9, it will make this equation true. So let's give it a try. X squared plus 10x plus 9 equals 0. So negative 1 squared plus 10 times negative 1 plus 9 equals 0. So now this is 1. 10 times negative 1 is negative 10 plus 9 equals 0. So this is negative 9 plus 9 equal, you have to solve it left to right, okay, once you're down to plus and minus. So now we know that when you use negative 1 as the value of x, it will make this equation true. If we will also use negative 9, so negative 9, okay, x squared plus 10x plus 9 equals 0. So negative 9 squared plus 10 times negative 9 plus 9 equals 0. So this is 81 plus negative 90 plus 9 equals 0. So 81 minus 90 is negative 9 plus 9 equals 0. So you see, so in this case, what we're really doing here is figuring things out. What are the values of x that will make my equation true? So that's what we are doing here. So we have two numbers that would be used as a value of x that will make this equation true. Those are negative 1 and negative 9. So now let's look at the second one. All right, and if you feel like I am very fast in my explanation, Keith, it's because I want to make the video shorter and easy to send to your mom. just slow down, just change the speed of the video once you listen to it. Okay, so we have x squared, what is this, minus 12x plus 35. Okay, let's slow down a little bit here. So the first thing, okay, you check, can I do extracting square roots? No, I have the second term, I can't do that. So now we're gonna use the zero product property of real numbers. All right, so what we're gonna do is, remember, we only look at our last term. What are the factors of 35? 1 times 35 is 35. We can also do 5 times 7, that gives me 35. So now let's check. Will my 5 and 7 make 12? Yes, it does. So what we're gonna do is, in order for you to add up to a negative 12, you're gonna make this negative and negative. So then that means your factors are x minus 5 and then x minus 7. That's how simple this is. They're both equal to 0. So now remember, we have to solve, so your solution, these are your factors. Now the solution would be x minus 5 is equal to 0. Remember the zero product property of real numbers. All right, so, and then, yeah, so why is it called zero product property of real numbers? Is because if you equate this to 0, the 0 times that would be 0. If you equate this to 0, 0 times this is 0. All right, so x minus 5 is equal to 0. So plus 5, x is 5. That's one solution, meaning if I use 5 and put it in the place of x here in the equation, this equation will become true. I can also use 7, so x minus 7 plus 7 plus 7. So x, I can also use 7 and put it in the equation and it will be true. So let's test it, Keith. So x squared minus 12x plus 35 equals 0. So 5. 5 squared minus 12 times 5 plus 35 equals 0. So this is 25 minus 60 plus 35 equals 0. 25 minus 60 is negative 35 plus 35. You see, it is true. Now, what if, so 0 equals 0, that is true. All right, so now what if we use 7? So x squared minus 12x plus 35 equals 0. Now we have 7 squared minus 12 times 7 plus 35 equals 0. All right, so 7 squared is 49 minus, how much is this? 70, 94. 94 plus 35 equals 0. 49 minus 94, that would give you negative 35 plus 35 equals 0. Then 0 equals 0. So there are only two numbers that can be used as a value of x that will make this equation true, and those are 5 and 7. So in other words, your solutions are 5 and 7. So let me transfer the factors. X minus 5, x minus 7. So x equals 5, x equals 7. All right. Now, let's do the third one. Okay, so this is x squared plus 7x equals 4. All right, in order for this strategy to work, all the terms have to be transferred on the left side of the equation. This has to be equated to 0. So minus 4, so it becomes x squared plus 7x minus 4 equals 0. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the factors of 4, right? Just the 4. All right, so I can do, hold on a second. Is that correct? Equals 4. So what are the factors of 4? 1 and 4. And then 2 and 2. So unfortunately, there's no factor that we can add up, that will give you 7. So now I'm gonna hang on to this one because then we have to use a different strategy for that one. All right, so I believe that's a 4. Yeah, your teacher might not purposely place that there because I would assume that you were not taught how to do this yet. But we'll get back to that. All right, before I forget, let's get back to this problem over here, because now that we know how to solve equations in this form, so now we can use that. Okay, so now we have s squared plus 10s plus 25. In order to avoid confusion, Keith, I'm gonna use a different letter for s. I'm gonna use a, so that you will not mistake it as 5. All right, so what we're gonna do is, what are the factors of 5? 25, 5 and 5. That would give me 10. I can also do 25 and 1, but that wouldn't make sense. This makes sense. So I'm gonna use this. So the factors would be a plus 5, a plus 5 equals 0. So now you will have a plus 5 is equal to 0 minus 5 minus 5. A is negative 5. So what happens here is there's only one number, because even if you solve that, that would still be negative 5. So you don't say, oh, the solutions are negative 5 and negative 5, because they're just the same number. So that means we only have one solution to your equation. So in this case, the only way is s. So we can go back to s is equal to 5. Okay? So that means here s is 5. And then the s here is 5. So that means that this side is 5 plus 5. So the whole thing is 10. The whole thing is 5 plus 5 is 10. That means the area of your square is 100 square centimeters. That's the area. All right? So now we're going to get back to this because we cannot solve it in that method. Okay, so I would have to introduce you the next strategy in order to solve that one. All right, so now let's take a look at number 4. We have 2x squared plus 7x plus 9 equals 0. All right, so all right, so this would be using another strategy again. So I believe that exercise should not be placed there, but after the strategy should be introduced. So we'll leave that blank for now because your teacher, if following the module, haven't really taught you how to do that yet. So now I owe you these 2 questions. Now let's move on to the next strategy. I'm gonna cut the video. We're gonna move on to another video because I don't want this to be too long.